morning class in diagnostic medicine today, your objective is students will analyze the structures of the heart and demonstrate the ability to do ECGs and EKG. Your activities for today, we will have an open discussion about this lesson, and then you will do a hands-on performance evaluation, as well as a written examination. Your guiding question is, what are EKGs and why are they done? Okay? Your resources is text. You can use your textbook as well as any web-based material today. So before we begin the lesson, what we're going to do is take a look at some of the terminology that we'll be using in this lesson. Atrium, ventricles, artery, veins, EKG, ECG, and V-field. So let's take a look at each one of those and what they mean. Atrium, and right here I have a model of the heart for you so you can also observe that. Your atrium is going to be your top chambers which actually receive the blood. Your ventricle is going to be your bottom chamber which actually does most of the pumping action, okay? Now, you have your artery and you have your veins. Now, your artery and veins are color-coded on this model. Your blue is going to be your veins, which receives deoxygenated blood. Deoxygenated means that there is a lack of oxygen in that blood, okay? Your arteries, okay, are going to be color-coded red, which is rich in oxygenated blood, okay? So you have your veins, which carry blood toward the heart to be received, to the lungs to replenish for oxygen, and you have your arteries which carry blood, rich oxygenated blood away from the heart, okay? Now, let's take a look at the term EKG and ECG. Now, you will probably hear this term and you probably think to yourself, what is the difference between EKG and ECG? There is no difference between the two. The only thing is that it's derived from a different language. So when you hear EKG and ECG, that actually is the same term. Now, EKG stands for electrocardiogram, okay? Now, this is a procedure, a test that's done to actually measure the output and the electrical activity of the heart. Now, let's take a look at this term V-field. V-field is abbreviated for ventricular fibrillation. Now, I want everybody to take your hand and make a fist for me, okay? Now, this is the size of your heart, okay? Your heart itself is just a muscle, and it's doing this all day and all night. It's beating like this. Boo-boo, 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 boo-boo. Now, that is the job of your heart to actually push and circulate that blood throughout the body. If the heart stops, that means that your body will no longer get that oxygen it needs for those tissues and cells to survive. So the heart has a very important job. First of all, it has to circulate that oxygen throughout the body. So what we're going to do is, first thing, I want to show you this model and actually show you the structures on here. Like I said again, your top half is going to be, you have 4 chambers in all. Your top half is going to be your atrium. Now, you always have a right and you always have a left. So you have your right atrium as well as your left atrium. You have your right ventricle as well as your left ventricle, okay? Do we have any questions about our terminology that will be used throughout the lesson? No questions? Okay. Now, let's take a look at the diagram over here we have on the board. Now, I want you to also know this is one of my favorite lessons, is the circulatory system. I think that the heart is so fascinating to me. So, as you can see again, you got your blue color-coded and you have your red color-coded. So, the blue represents, again, deoxygenated blood, where there is lack of blood that's flowing, okay? The red represents rich oxygenated blood. So what I want to show you on this diagram is how the blood actually flows through the heart, okay? Now this may be a very a concept that you probably won't grasp the first time. So what we'll do is we'll continue to work with you on, and I'll show you some different models in another lesson where you may be able to grasp this concept. I just want you to take a look at this. Now, you have your deoxygenated blood, which comes in through your veins, which is here, your vena cava. These blue structures here are called your vena cava. These are the largest vein in the body. So it comes in from your inferior and your superior vena cava. That's the way the blood comes in. After it has been used throughout the body and there's no oxygen in it, it comes into the heart to be replenished. So it comes in through your superior and your inferior vena cava. Then it is received by the upper chamber of the heart, which is the right atrium. Okay? Then once it goes into the right atrium, you have these valves. Now, a valve kind of work like the same, valves that you have in your home. It actually, when you open it up, it cuts off. Okay? So when you close it, the blood is not allowed to pass through. So as you can see, this valve right here is open. So what happens is, when that blood comes in through the right atrium, it goes into this valve right here. Then this valve closes out, where the blood cannot actually flow back. Okay? And sometimes people have what they call like leaky valves, and that's the reason why they may have to have some type of surgery to actually correct that, because what happens is you have the blood that is flowing back from the heart, and that could be something that may be very dangerous. Okay, so you got the blood that's coming in, it goes into the right atrium, okay, down into the right ventricle. Okay, now the ventricles, I remind you, it's like the pumping power. Okay, so the right ventricle pumps that blood back out through this artery right here. Okay, and this artery is called the pulmonary artery. Okay, and it pumps it through the pulmonary artery back out, and I'm going to draw me a little image here of the lungs. Okay, so here you have your lungs. Okay, so you got the pulmonary artery pumping the blood back out to the lungs. Okay, so what happens in the lungs is that you have the lungs is where the deoxygenated blood, that it has a lack of oxygen, it is actually switched out for oxygen. Okay, so it's actually replenished in the lungs. So once that blood is replenished by the lungs, it goes back into the left side. It comes into the left side, which is the left atrium, back down through this valve, then back down to the left ventricle, okay, and then back out the aorta. Now, let me remind you also that the aorta is one of the biggest arteries. Okay, you got your super vena cava, which is one of the largest veins, and you also have your aorta, which is the largest artery. So that blood comes in from the left side, back down to the left atrium, down to the left ventricle, and back out toward the aorta and out to the body. Okay, so that is actually how the body actually pumps blood throughout the body. So let's just kind of go over that again. I'll kind of just say again how that happens. Blood comes into the superior and inferior vena cava, into the right atrium, down to the right ventricle, then through the pulmonary artery to the lungs, where it's replenished for oxygen, back into